In my last Black Lagoon video I did like a year or so ago, I said it was going to be my last Black Lagoon video, and well,
I lied.
here I am again. And it's been a minute since I uploaded a video, so let's get into it. One thing I believe goes underappreciated about Black Lagoon is its commentary on politics. And yes, I know it's a scary word, and if you're going to click off because of it, then you haven't really been paying attention to Black Lagoon at all, or the subject matter in my Black Lagoon videos. In the 3-episode or 4 chapters for the manga story arc, Das Wiedererstehen des Adlers, is a story that is told in 2 parts. One in the present day with the Lagoon Company, and one in the past during the final days of World War II. The story starts in Germany, March 1945, with a U-boat captain getting ready to leave Germany on his final mission of escorting a Japanese military officer back to Japan. However, there was a last-minute passenger on the captain's U-boat, an SS officer who was on a secret mission, which will be discussed later in this video. Back in the present day, the Lagoon Company was hired by an unknown third party to salvage the wreck of the U-boat that was discovered near the waters of Jakarta. Inside was a painting that they wanted. He wanted them to get there before other organizations got there first. They did some research on the U-boat and learned about who the captain was, what was his mission, and how a SS officer got on board the last seconds before it set sail. The Lagoon Company thinks this was going to be an easy job, and on the surface, it does sound like it. But, of course, it wouldn't make for an interesting story if it was just that. When they reached the waters over where the U-boat was located, Rock and Revy were sent down to do some salvage, while Dutch and Benny waited. But they did not expect another ship heading to their exact location. After a short conversation, the unknown ships start launching missiles at the Lagoon Company, forcing them to take evasive maneuvers and are forced out of the area over the salvage site. All Dutch and Benny could do is wait and hope for the best and wonder why these newcomers were there. Back in the past, the U-boat was close to their destination of Japan. But like the Lagoon Company, they ran into some trouble, the US Navy. The captain made the decision to attack them, justifying it by saying it was their duty to assist their Japanese allies. The SS officer tells them this was not part of their mission, and it could end badly for them. As much as I hate to admit it, he is correct. They were outgunned, and they were so close to completing their mission. It was not worth the risk. The U-boat was discovered, and depth charges were dropped on them, ultimately dooming the crew inside when the damage to the hull caused water to flood in and knocking out their life supports. They only had a few hours to live. Their Japanese passenger already took his own life, possibly during the underwater bombardment. This is where we discovered what the SS officer's mission was. The captain tells the officer that he was not going to be able to complete his mission because of the damage done to the U-boat. Hearing this outrages the officer, telling the captain the mission he was on was an incredibly important one that needed to be completed. He blames the captain for failing, and this is where he reveals what his mission was. He was carrying a painting called The 12 Knights led by Brunhilde. This was going to be their rallying cry when the Nazi party resurfaces again. Brunhilde is a Norse mythology figure who plays an important role in Richard Wagner's opera Der Ring des Nibelungen. And I'm sure there's more to it, but this is outside the scope of what this video is about. This is a reference to how Hitler and most of his inner circle was really into Nordic mythicism. While I personally don't believe he made decisions based off of some myths like some History Channel documentaries like to portray, it's not like he made decisions based on internet memes. Richard Wagner was an anti-Semitic composer that Hitler was really into. I would say he was more inspired by him than anything else, but this little reference in Black Lagoon was something I really appreciated as someone who was into history from that era. After the captain hears this from the officer, he realizes that the higher-ups have already given up fighting the war. They gave up. He didn't. He fought until the end. But he was glad to see the Nazis fail, and was happy to know that his family won't be living under Nazi rule. He was thinking about his family during his last moments, and he told the officer that someone who wasn't thinking about their family as they were about to die was a real piece of shit. The officer shot him. Back in the present day, it is revealed that the unknown ship was being operated by neo-Nazis. They were there to retrieve the painting and give it to the man who hired them. That way, this little white supremacist group can get a foot into a bigger organization. The neo-Nazis were shown as comedic figures, really believing the shit they were saying. Like, just watch this and try not to laugh.
このような歓喜の瞬間があろうか。私は感動と感涙の中、例える言葉を見つけることができない。感無量であります。指揮官殿。
And honestly, it's not that far off from what real-world neo-Nazis and white supremacists believe in. If you read some of those mass shooter manifestos in the last few years, it's honestly cringe and just depressing. Dutch comments on how giving some guy a podium and giving him some power can get people worked up into marching to his tune. He goes on to saying how he liked to show those neo-Nazis on the boat how Hitler really felt during those final days, washing away the myth and romance, and you get to see what Nazis were really like. Skipping ahead after a shootout, Revy and Dutch wanted payback for being shot at, and they wanted to complete the job. Back in the neo-Nazi ship, they were celebrating their success. One of the Nazis commented that the amount of resources they just put into just getting the painting just didn't make sense. This is something Dutch and Rock are talking about as well. Dutch and Revy infiltrate and raid the ship. Neo-Nazis are getting shot left and right, and unlike the usual shootout Black Lagoon is known for, this was just a slaughter. I believe this was foreshadowed by Dutch when he was talking about how Hitler was cowering in his bunker in his final days. These guys didn't really put much of a fight and just get mowed down by them. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. And I would be doing Black Lagoon fans a disservice if I did not mention this scene. No notes. Absolute cinema! Dutch makes his way to the commander, and this is where everything ties up together. The neo-Nazi commander is on the phone with his benefactor. It turns out the painting might have been painted by Hitler, which is something the SS officer believed in as well. However, that's not the case. The painting had secret bank routing numbers that a small group of SS officers moved money across the globe once they saw the writings on the wall that they were going to lose the war. He was also the one who hired Lagoon Company and the neo-Nazis. He had set them up to confront each other. This was supposed to be a test for the neo-Nazis, but clearly they failed. The commander felt betrayed, but the benefactor said both sides were given an even playing field. I disagree with that. The neo-Nazis were given a lot more resources to start with. They had a whole arsenal of weapons, a portable sub, even rented out the ship they came in. But he does comment that the neo-Nazis were inept, and if they really wanted to join their ranks, they would have put up a much bigger fight. The benefactor praises Dutch, saying that if he was fortunate to have been born white, he would have been given a medal. But Dutch just wants money for the job. They say their goodbyes, with the benefactor saying he wishes for his kind be wiped off the face of the earth. Ironic, since it was a black man and a Chinese woman that slaughtered a boat full of white men. Dutch and Revy made a bet to see if the commander had the balls to shoot himself. He doesn't, and both of them finish him off, and this is where the episode pretty much ends. Before I start wrapping this up, I did intentionally cut the side story with Rock and Revy and their interpersonal disagreements on the ethics and morality of their jobs. It didn't really add anything to the subject matter of this video. The two stories being told side by side was an interesting way of showing how two characters who were more or less politically aligned saw the reality of their dire situations when their backs are to the wall. They became disillusioned with what they believed in, realizing that they were just swept up by the lies they were told. The U-boat captain came to the realization that his leaders had ruined his country. Granted, it pretty much came at the end of his life when he came to that conclusion, but not many people who have these extremist views can come to that realization on their own. The SS officer pretty much had told him they were giving up and they were going to try again. But the difference is, the SS officer was a true believer until the end. Both of these men were lied to, but only one of them realized that. The neo-Nazi commander believed he was going to join the ranks of an even bigger white nationalist group, but he was lied to from the very start. He was just a pawn from the very beginning. Their behavior, while funny and admittedly played for comedic effect, isn't too far from how white nationalists larp as these big tough guys, and it's hard to feel bad for them when everything they believe in comes crashing down. Black Lagoon's commentary on politics is more than the usual "politicians are liars" and "politics is bad" trope that doesn't really take a stance on anything. The author, Ray Hiroe, does make it clear how he leans politically throughout Black Lagoon's story. You just need to read between the lines and not get distracted by the great action scenes. But if there's one thing I wanted you to take away from all this is...
Fuck the Nazis is a family creed.
I want to give a very special thank you to Clayton Santos for the amazing work he always does for these Black Lagoon videos. Link to his work is in the description of the video. And I also want to give a very special thank you to the editor of this video, Matt Cross. He's my boy, he's the GOAT. I love this man. Thanks, bud. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and hope to see you again very soon in the Outer Room.